Why hard workers stay poor. Hard work is one of the most respected values in the world. From a young age, we're taught that if you work hard, stay disciplined, and never give up, success will eventually follow. But if that's true, why are so many hardworking people still struggling? Why are construction workers, factory workers, nurses, drivers, and employees who give their energy every single day barely surviving, while others, who don't seem to work nearly as hard, keep getting richer? The answer is uncomfortable but simple. Hard work alone does not create wealth. Hard work without leverage keeps you poor. Most people confuse effort with value. They believe the more tired they are at the end of the day, the closer they must be to success. But the economy doesn't reward effort. It rewards results, ownership, and scale. You can work harder than everyone around you and still go nowhere if your work doesn't grow beyond your time. That's the first trap. When you're paid by the hour, your income has a hard limit. There are only 24 hours in a day. No matter how disciplined or motivated you are, you can't break that ceiling. Once your time is sold, it's gone forever. Hard workers trade time for money. Wealth builders trade systems for income. This is why many hardworking people feel stuck. They're always busy, always exhausted, always doing something. But nothing compounds. The second trap is obedience. Hard workers are usually great employees. They follow rules, meet deadlines, and do what they're told. That makes them valuable inside a system, but powerless outside of it. The system rewards obedience with stability, not wealth. Stability keeps you alive. Wealth changes your life. When you're trained to follow instructions instead of creating direction, you become dependent on permission. Permission to earn more. Permission to rest. Permission to take risks. Owners don't ask for permission. They build leverage. The third trap is comfort disguised as safety. Hard workers are often told they are lucky to have a steady income. And over time, that income becomes a psychological cage. It's not enough to build freedom, but it's enough to keep you afraid of leaving. Fear of losing stability keeps people trapped longer than poverty ever could. They delay growth for safety. They delay risk for comfort. They delay ownership for approval. And years pass. The fourth trap is that hard work is usually focused on execution, not thinking. Most people are so busy working in the system that they never step back to question it. They optimize routines instead of questioning direction. They improve efficiency instead of improving leverage. But wealth doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing differently. Working harder on the wrong path just gets you tired faster. The fifth trap is that hard workers almost always underprice themselves, not because they lack skill, but because they were taught to trade loyalty for security. They believe loyalty will be rewarded. They believe patience will be noticed. They believe that if they just keep their head down, work harder than everyone else, and stay consistent, someone will eventually recognize their effort and do the right thing. But the system doesn't reward effort. It rewards position. Effort without ownership rarely gets rewarded fairly. It gets used. It gets extracted. And once it's no longer needed, it gets replaced. Value creators get paid. Value owners get rich. That's the shift most people never make. Hard workers are taught to sell their labor, not to price their value. They're trained to ask, "What am I paid?" instead of asking, "What do I control?" And that single difference decides their financial future. This doesn't mean hard work is useless. Hard work is powerful when it's pointed in the right direction. Hard work should be used to build rare, valuable skills. Skills that are difficult to replace. Skills that solve expensive problems. Skills that grow in value over time instead of being slowly automated away. Hard work should be used to create assets. Assets that don't disappear when you stop working. Assets that can be sold, scaled, improved, or duplicated. Assets that earn while you sleep, rest, or focus on something else. Hard work should be used to design systems. Systems that reduce dependence on your time. Systems that turn effort into repeatable outcomes. Systems that work even when your motivation doesn't. Hard work is fuel, but direction decides where you end up. Most people burn that fuel just to stay in place. They spend their best years running faster on a treadmill that never moves. Busy every day, exhausted every night. Proud of how hard they work, yet secretly frustrated by how little changes. The people who escape poverty aren't the ones who work the longest hours. They're the ones who pause long enough to ask a dangerous question. How can this work without me? That question changes everything. It forces you to stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a builder. It shifts your focus from effort to leverage, from activity to outcome, from survival to design. They build once and earn repeatedly. They learn skills that scale across industries, borders, and platforms. They choose ownership over comfort, even when comfort feels safer in the short term. That's why two people can work equally hard, read the same books, wake up at the same time, and still end up in completely different places. One stays busy forever. The other builds freedom. Hard workers stay poor not because they lack discipline, intelligence, or ambition, but because they were taught the wrong game, and they never question the rules. And once you understand the game, everything changes. You stop glorifying exhaustion as if being tired is proof of progress. You stop wearing burnout like a badge of honor. You stop believing that long hours automatically mean you're moving forward. You stop confusing movement with progress. Being busy no longer impresses you. Endless tasks, packed schedules, and constant motion stop feeling productive when they're not building anything that lasts. You stop trading your life for survival while calling it responsibility. You realize that playing it safe forever is its own kind of risk. A slow, quiet risk that steals your time, your energy, and your potential. You begin to see the system for what it really is. And you understand that working harder inside a broken system doesn't fix the system. It only drains you faster. At that point, your questions change. You stop asking, how can I work harder? And you start asking, how can this grow without me? How can my effort compound? How can today's work pay me tomorrow? That's when your focus shifts from effort to leverage, from activity to ownership, from survival to design. You understand that hard work by itself doesn't make you rich. Millions of exhausted people are proof of that, but hard work applied to leverage does. Hard work used to build skills that scale. Hard work used to create assets that don't disappear when you rest. And that is the real difference between staying poor and finally breaking free.